Hi there, this is Victor Cook, the executive producer and supervising director of Stretch Armstrong and the Flex Fighters, which you can watch on Netflix. I was also the producer and supervising director of The Spectacular Spider-Man, and I want to wish all the fans of that show a happy 10-year anniversary. You are watching Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another web-slinging edition of Kneel Before Pod, the podcast that has a tingle for superhero movies. The dust has settled on Endgame, so it's time to move on with the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe entry, Spider-Man Far From Home. To talk Spider-Man, I thought I would assemble the worst of the worst, the biggest villains known to man. So first, he's coarse, he's irritating, and he gets everywhere. It's our own Sandman, Isaac.
Hello.
Oh, cute.
Next up, charging into the conversation, not worrying about who gets in our way, we have our own Rhino, Cat.
Oh, that's surprising.
Well,
This is going to be the best intro ever.
Horny.
next up, he always finds a way to make the technology work, even by zapping it. It's Chris or Electro.
Hello.
You want to be known as.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Hovering over the conversation, waiting to strike at the right moment, pick up the scraps. It's Angus or the Vulture.
Buongiorno.
The penultimate introduction is, it's her job to distract us from what we're supposed to be talking about. Our very own Mysterio, Natalie.
Oh my god.
Take that fishbowl off.
It's just
You're scaring the fish.
Oh my god.
And lastly, there's me. I brought us all together and used my many hands to make sure things run smoothly. I'm Craig, also known as Dr. Octopus. There we are. We are the Sinister Six. Because, why not?
Is the
Because you'll
Sinister Six like a real thing?
No, I just made it up.
I really want that to be a thing.
No, it is a real thing. It's a collection of Spider-Man villains, usually 6 in number, that team up to
Oh my
fight.
god, do we like that?
They're quite sinister.
They are often quite sinister. Yeah. So there we go. That's everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Yo.
Okay. So since we have a panel of 6, we're not going to do a Kneel Before Rise Against this time. The audience all just give a collective aww. So we're not doing that. But we are going to talk a lot about Spider-Man. So one of my favourite topics. So let's launch straight into spoiler-free thoughts. I'm going to pick on the Vulture first. Angus, what did you think of Far From Home? Without spoilers.
Without spoiling, I didn't know what to expect going in because there was obviously quite a big event happened before the events of this movie.
Oh, really?
Well, there was that whole Thanos deal. And
Dark Phoenix.
yes. So I kind of had lowered expectations, which meant I think that I enjoyed a lot of this. But also, I think I recognise that it just can't live up to, or maybe I'm not ready for the beginning of a new arc or saga.
Okay.
Kind of similar. I think I went in sort of, not really knowing, like, all right, we wrapped that whole, 22 movie saga up. Like, what else have they got to say? And I felt like it was really soon after Endgame for this to be happening. So genuinely, I didn't know what to expect. So I went in kind of like, all right, let's see what we've got. And I found myself really, really enjoying all of it. And I loved Mysterio, and I loved, sort of Spider-Man's emotional arc in this film. I had a really good time, and actually, I don't mind that it came out so soon after Endgame now, because it was very much tied into that. So, yeah, surprisingly, I really, really enjoyed it.
Cool. Isaac, what were your thoughts?
I really like this one. I think this might be one of my favourite of the Marvel movies. 'Cause it's just like super fun, and it's got like it's got like a sort of slightly rom-com side of it, and then a more superhero-y side of it. And it's just real fun. Just real fun movie.
Natalie, what did you think?
It was enjoyable, but I thought it had a slow start for somebody who has such a thing like Spider-Man and the number of Spider-Man movies that come out. That was good.
Do you know what? I was pleasantly surprised by this. I thought it was going to be really tough to follow up Endgame and sort of deal with all the repercussions that spat out at the end. For it not to be Peter Parker rocking back and forth in tears for the whole 2-hour run. I think it was really good. Enjoyed it.
I loved it, actually. I think my issues with the MCU version of Spider-Man, in terms of the actual setup, are kind of well documented. And they still exist, although they're systemic and they don't affect this film. I think they did really well with the characters, they did really well with the plot. It was nice to get a Spider-Man movie without the New York backdrop. That was different. They almost teased that in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 when he was going to move to London, and then didn't, because they never made any of those movies after that. So I had a good time with it and kind of eager to see more whenever that happens. Okay, shall we move into spoilers? Any objections? Anyone else have anything to say before we dive in?
No.
Let's go for it.
Cool.
Spider-Sense going crazy. Guy can't even sling a few webs in peace anymore.
Ooh,
What?
I'm reacting to this, guys.
All right.
Yeah. It's amazing what Craig can do with all those arms, isn't it?
Well, pull a lot of levers.
It's gross. I don't want to hear anything about that.
I mean, really impressive drum playing there, Craig, with your many arms.
Well, it's what I was put on this earth to do. Also, they're extendable, so I can reach the fridge without standing up. It's best invention ever. Let's move into our Q&A section. Q&A. We have some questions from listeners. Or they're people anyway. I don't know if they're actually listeners, but they want to ask questions. So I'm going to go with a feisty one first of all, because that's fun. So Lee, who actually has his own podcast and was on this once, asks, 8th grade was the counter-programming release when Endgame dropped, and now Midsummer for Spider-Man. How important is it for filmgoers to support the counter-programming release too that week, or perhaps prioritise it during this Disney-dominated era?
What?
Okay, so the gist of it
I
is...
actually really...
8th grade came out the same week that Endgame came out, and Midsummer came out the same week Spider-Man came out. So, do we have a responsibility as filmgoers to go see them, or make sure we see them, rather than let them be kind of drowned out by the Disney machine?
Just watch as many films as you want.
Carefully. I actually do really want to see Midsummer, and I wanted to go and see it, but obviously I do, so first. I will be going to see
The corporate show.
I actually haven't seen either of these films, mostly because I don't want to see Midsummer. It just doesn't seem like my thing at all. I didn't like Hereditary, so I don't think I'm getting much out of it. 8th grade I meant to see, but I just didn't, for whatever reason. I mean, I think the little guys deserve some love. I think it's difficult because these blockbusters will always kind of take over most of the multiplex screens, and it will be hard to cajole people to see different things in its opening weekend, when they could be seeing Endgame instead.
I mean, I think if people have only got their one ticket for the month or whatever, then they probably are more likely to go off and see Spider-Man or Lion King or something like that that's out. Though Midsummer, to be fair, has been getting, really, really good reviews, which I think will draw an alternate crowd to it. Because there will be people out there, I know it's difficult for all of us on this podcast to believe, that have got no interest in Spider-Man whatsoever. So, yeah, I mean, each to their own, really. It would be great if people could see as many of them as they like, but if they're making a choice between what they're going to see at the cinema or not, they might pick to see Midsummer on home screen rather than at the big show. It's really difficult. And it's up to the cinemas as well how long they keep these films running for.
Yeah,
is the other one.
At all.
If they run them in the first place, and if they don't run them, or if they do run them, I suppose it's like if the ticket sales are particularly low, or if another big blockbuster comes out and sort of around about the same time as Spider-Man, we know that we've got things like The Lion King coming out soon, so they're going to swallow up more screens.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it I think has to do with like sort of distribution deals, which like we as audience members are not necessarily privy to, with regards to Disney in particular. Now, like, to answer the question, responsibility, sure, but I wouldn't like to think of it as, you know, like an obligation. Ultimately, it is about what film you want to see. And if, you know, your only reasoning to go see a movie is, well, it's not Disney, so I'm going to go see that, then, you know, live your life, but that doesn't sound very fun. Now, you know, Midsommar looks fantastic, and I know a lot of people who have gone to see that over seeing Spider-Man, not in terms of, like, making a conscious choice to, like, snub Disney, but it genuinely was, like, the better choice for them. It just looked like more fun for them. And so, you know, I think the question is, you know, can you make a movie that's, you know, good enough, or that the marketing is good enough that will rival something as big as a Marvel movie? It looks like Midsommar has kind of done that so far. And that's great. But yeah, responsibility, sure, because ultimately our dollars, our pounds decide what, you know, people will keep making, what studios will think we like. But also, like, you know, I don't know. I like Disney movies. I like Marvel movies. I think they're fun. I really enjoy them. So, you know, does that make me a corporate shill? Maybe. Shrug.
We're all part of the problem.
I think it's unfortunate that the studios, you know, they've worked out the equation of the budget bucks to box office bucks equation, and it's just kind of the relentless march of the way cinema's going. But I, for one, welcome our new Disney overlords.
I was actually listening to an interview with Bruce Campbell recently. He was on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, and he was talking about if any studio gave him like $120 million, he would make, like, I don't know, 50 films, you know, and of varying budgets, varying small budgets, and, you know, half of them would be middle of the road, you know, some of them would be terrible, and a couple of them would be great, and he sees that as a better business model in terms of that. And there's maybe some truth to that, I think. It's possible that, you know, I mean, it's been going around for years that the studios are spending too much money on these tentpole films, and, you know, gone are the days of the summer blockbuster. It's now like the summer blockbusters, you know, it's a couple of weeks and then there's another one, and it's inevitable that some will flop because people are just not spending the money on everything.
I think they're just pretty shrewd about it, and until something else becomes the best way to make money from movies, they'll keep doing this.
Yeah, I think eventually the sort of saturation of blockbuster bubble will burst, and then eventually we'll go back to, you know, the days of Independence Day where you had like the one or two big films a year and that was you, and there'll be a lot of kind of smaller scale stuff that people will end up enjoying.
I think there will be a lot of stuff that is discovered after release, though. A lot of stuff that will be discovered, you know, once it goes to video, to use the older term, you know, popping up on Netflix, Amazon, and other services. Because that's happened with so many films, and it still does happen, that people suddenly go, oh my God, have you seen this? You know, and it maybe only got a cinema screening for a few weeks, but suddenly it takes on a life of its own. And I do think there's something to be said about these studios putting a bit of money aside to fund, you know, like you said, you know, 50-odd projects could be made for the same money as one big blockbuster movie. You know, I know that they will say that they do put money aside, but I don't think it's enough for that kind of film. And even if there was a fund put aside to promote them and give them the same level of PR that these blockbusters do, because I think that's where it's hit. You've got to get in people's faces, you've got to be in their social media feed, you've got to be on the TV shows, and you've got to try and promote it that way. I mean, I know a lot of the time these shows want the big stars on, but if the PR people want a film to be seen, they'll get it out there. And I think that's the kind of money that they need to throw behind some of these smaller budget films.
Yeah, could be right. So, Lee, I hope that's a satisfactory answer to your question. You can let me know. Kat, you said you had a question and it was a silly one, so let's get a silly one after the...
From Dominic, he says, very important, is there a gratuitous butt shot in this film? He needs to know. To answer your question, Dom, not really, but there is a lot of skin-tight Spider-Man, so, you know,
He does get down to his boxers.
That is true. There are gratuitous abs.
and legs, like,
yes.
multiple times.
And
Which is kind of weird,
and his
because he
shaved
was
legs.
so young that he almost peed away.
Gratuitous butt shot? In what sense? I mean, what is he...
Yeah, what
Can
does
he expect to see some booty? In particular, Spider-Man booty.
Italy's ass, Czech Republic's ass.
There is a mention to There is a mention to the old web shooter.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes.
And lots of Peter Tingle.
There is some Peter Tingle. It's true.
Yeah, it doesn't...
Yeah.
It's kind of light on the kind of gratuity, isn't it? I mean, Marvel films generally are. They don't tend to go for that. I mean, you get a lot of lingering shots of Thor's abs, but I don't think anybody objects to that, I suppose. Unless it's an Endgame, in which case people are like, no, maybe not. But, yeah, I mean, when you look at Justice League as an example, there's quite a lot of, like, kind of bizarre, gratuitous stuff in there. Particularly with Wonder Woman. Let's just shoot her from behind and beneath all the time.
Oh, it's like never.
So there we go. Kind of a silly one. That answers that. Natalie, did you have one? I'll come back to mine in a minute. Okay. Fire away.
One of them is from Christmas. Says, what was Mysterio going to do if he was really successful?
That's a good question.
Right?
He was going to be the greatest hero the world has ever known. That was his plan, I guess.
Would he get teamed up with the other Avengers then? And then they'd be like,
an Avenger?
you're kind of a VR hero?
What's the
VR trooper, if you will.
What's the deal with this guy?
He'd have been all right until the first genuine threat arrived on Earth. You know, he'd be constantly doing little hero stuff with fake VR heroes, and then or villains, sorry. And then suddenly a serious threat would arrive on Earth, and he'd be absolutely taken out. He would just need to go into hiding for that week.
Well, it depends how susceptible they are to drone strikes.
Yeah.
Do you not think though that the other Avengers would be able to like detect him for who he is?
Oh yeah, I think anyone else except Spider-Man, this wouldn't have worked. I mean, can you imagine if they teamed up with Doctor Strange? It's like, this isn't real magic. What are you doing?
Well, it's not real. Like, would it be real? And can you imagine like Thor trying to like come in light now? It would totally fuck up all the drones.
Yeah. I think everybody else would see through it. Pretty much.
Captain America would probably just keep giving him like pep talks. Like, hey, I know you're real nervous about this, pal, but it's the Avengers, like, don't worry, you'll fit in soon enough.
He did now.
Yeah, if Iron Man was still alive, he'd see through it immediately, because he'd be like, hey, you're that guy I fired a few years ago.
There's no way Iron Man knows any of his stuff by their faces.
But he'd have the technology, he would have had Edith, though, to tell him who that was.
Or even just Friday.
I have I have my own personal question about that.
Yep.
So we can come to that later.
Okay.
Another question is Craig, and he says, thoughts on that ending?
Well, that ties in with one of my questions, which is from Laura, that says, WTF is going to happen next?
I think we'll get to that.
Yeah, that sounds like the sort of thing that is more like, probably take a bit of chat to sort of get to the bottom of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. We will have thoughts on that ending, both Laura and, who was it? Craig, my namesake? Yeah.
Craig. Okay, then I have one more.
Okay.
And it was, let's chat about the Fantastic Four teaser. Who has bought Stark Tower?
What Fantastic Four teaser?
I don't know. I've asked them to link me it.
There isn't one. There we go.
Well, is there though?
No.
So there weren't any hints or anything like that in the movie?
No.
At all?
No. Not really.
Lord Craig, has this gone past you?
I don't know. Did anyone else detect any Fantastic Four hints in the film?
I know nothing of the Fantastic Four, so if there was one, I wouldn't have noticed it.
No, me either, so I'm stumped.
I think I saw the Invisible Woman at one point.
How funny.
That's a good one.
There is a suggestion that, because you do see Spider-Man swinging through the city at the end, and they're very deliberate in not showing the former Avengers Tower. At least its entirety. You sort of see it behind Grand Central, because that's where it is, but you don't actually see the building. So the suggestion is that they maybe bought the building, but equally it could be anybody else. A lot of people think Norman Osborn bought the building, which would probably make more sense.
Why would he even sell it? Why would anyone sell?
Because they had their nifty Avengers compound upstate, where if, for example, someone like Thanos decided to bomb the hell out of it, it wouldn't destroy the city.
Why wouldn't Tony Stark have, like, in his will or any legislation to say that it should exist as a monument if anything happens to him?
Because he sold it before that happened.
Oh,
it was in Homecoming. The building was being sold. That was the whole climax. It was about that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was when the remote controlled plane flew away and Peter had to bring it down.
I have a question, but it's from me.
Okay.
Was MJ's hair going the right direction when they were swinging through New York?
Oh, I didn't notice. Was it not?
I think it probably was, because because it's such a thing about how Kirsten Dunst's hair was supposed to be going the wrong way or something, right?
Oh, okay.
When you said was MJ's hair going the right direction, I was worried about what you were going to say next.
The real problem is J. Jonah Jameson's hair going in the right direction?
I suppose it's going in the right direction for someone that's getting old.
It's retreating.
Going down.
Are you wanting to know about the alleged Fantastic Four teaser?
If you have the information.
I've had a quick Google. Okay, so apparently at the end, when they are swinging through New York, they land on the ground in front of the old Avengers Tower.
Yes.
And in front of the building, there's a sign that says, "We can't wait to show you what comes next," along with the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Suggesting apparently it's going to be the Fantastic Four headquarters.
See, I read that as we can't wait to show you the post-credit scene because J. Jonah Jameson's in it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I think there's people reading a lot into that, but yeah. But believe it if you want.
Do you think there's a random X somewhere in the film that might be a tease for something that they want to do next? I mean, I don't know. When the fire demon attacks or something, there's a streetlight that falls down and makes an X shape. Who knows?
Jake, how many times did you see this one?
4.
Oh, wow.
Spider-Man 4
Oh, there we go. Confirmed.
Yeah, yep.
Oh my god.
It's all a conspiracy. I'm the clue. I never knew.
That's why you're pretending to know nothing about it. Like,
if I say anything, Marvel will have me killed.
Extreme.
Yeah. Okay. Another question then. This one is from Scott. Scott Lang, Ant-Man, is asking a question. No one will take a picture with him, so he's asking a question instead. Do you think Peter's access to almost limitless resources gets in the way of what Spider-Man is supposed to be about? And I'm going to say yes.
No.
I think it really does.
No.
Because, well, my favourite versions of Spider-Man are the kind of self-made hero that, he cobbles together his tech because he has no money and does stuff. So I'm essentially talking about the PS4 game version here, which is probably my favourite since the comics. I think, other than Spectacular Spider-Man, I think that is a really good version. But at the same time, they've done it and they're not going to take it away. So you've got this issue of it doesn't make sense for him not to employ those resources. So when he's stuck in the Netherlands, he has to phone Happy because, of course, he can't get back otherwise. What else is he going to do? And he has access to that, so he might as well. I just have an issue with him getting handed everything.
No, I don't think that what makes Spider-Man is the fact that he doesn't have resources. What makes him who he is the sort of hero he is, and I think that's still there. So I personally didn't have an issue with that.
I think it's definitely here in this film, and and sort of reaffirming his values and things like that they do throughout the film. But I still have problems with everything that kind of surrounds him in terms of, all the other superheroes are clamoring to help him out, and Nick Fury, or not Nick Fury, is, really looking for his help because...
Hasn't it been that way since his introduction into MCU?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I tend to forget about it when he's in the Avengers movies or in Civil War, because he's kind of part of he's part of something bigger, but when he's on his own, I really notice it.
I think it makes sense because of the universe that he's been put into at this point. I do agree that it kind of strays from the traditional path, and they've made efforts, in this film to sort of show that he is sort of quite brainy, scientifically gifted. He was able to work out a lot of different bits, but yeah, he does have all those resources thrown at him. He is able to use like the auto fabricator and stuff at the end to sort himself out a suit, but it's him that comes up with the design and the plans and the way to sort of interrupt the drones at the end. So he does still sort of craft himself, and I suppose the way they've done the ending of this film means that he might potentially lose access to some of those resources, depending on what happens. So, yeah, I kind of half agree and I half don't. I think in this universe, you've just got to accept that this is the way he's been set up. It would be really difficult to go, oh, well, he didn't call anyone at this point. I mean, even when he was sort of hopping between countries earlier on, he jumped onto the roof of the train. And he got that. He didn't instantly go, oh, well, I need to get across the country. I'll call Happy and fly now. He didn't do it until he was genuinely 100% stuck. And at that point, he called for help.
And at that point, he didn't know who he could trust anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because his phone's been tapped or whatever he thinks it was. So, yeah, that was a smart decision, a very independent decision. And that's something I want to see more of from this version, for sure.
I really liked that he had all these resources to hand, and it felt like a gift from Tony Stark that he got to just play around a little bit, because a lot of the movie is him dealing with his loss and mourning Iron Man, but it's also him trying to wrestle with responsibilities from his superpowers and just trying to be a normal kid. So it's kind of like having those resources, particularly when he's on that plane making his own suit, affords him a little bit of like choice, because he doesn't really have much choice in anything else. And then the choices that he does make, different parts of the film, kind of regrets. So I quite liked that he had all these things to hand. Felt like a nice little token from Iron Man.
I don't think I mind that he has access to stuff. It's a connected universe, so you can chat to other superheroes and other sort of intel people, and it seems to make more sense that he wouldn't want to go it alone, because he'd want to chat to all these people who've done it before and a bit more experience. So it makes sense in terms of like this Spider-Man who, well, I suppose, I don't know if comic book Spider-Man also does this sort of thing where he has a lot of like the Avengers and stuff that he can contact for help. So I quite like that he is making use of it, as opposed to you were saying it doesn't make sense for him not to call up for help in this world because he's an Avenger, so why wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's typically a loner in the comics. I mean, it does change here and there because it's comics, but on the whole, he's a solo act. He does his own thing. Doesn't kind of too proud to ask for help most of the time, really. Thinks he can solve everything on his own, or it's his duty to solve it on his own. Yeah, so just me that kind of has issues with the whole setup.
Kind of agree with what the guys have been saying. I think that he fits in kind of with the way that he's been used in the MCU so far. And then, as Chris said, maybe if he kind of has to go on the run or something after this movie, maybe we will get to see the kind of him having to rely on himself and his own resourcefulness in a future film.
Well, yeah.
It might be that people just can't openly support him in the way that they have up until now. I don't know. I don't know if he's quite going to be forced on the run, but yeah, he's not getting support. I mean, if he has ongoing access to a drone army in future films, I might think he's slightly overpowered for what Spider-Man is supposed to be. But yeah, it's, a bit of common sense element in there.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. is from Awais, and he says, how do you think the MJ-Peter dynamic in Far From Home compares to Peter and MJ in Raimi's trilogy and Peter and Gwen in Webb's films? Very good question. 3 very different sort of relationships that define, I suppose, the different iterations of Spider-Man. We'll ignore the Spider-Verse one for the moment because that's a different can of worms. Isaac, you go first. Why not?
This is definitely the best MJ that we've seen on cinema. Like, Zendaya's really, really good at it. I think also it helps that this Spider-Man has friends who aren't millionaires. In the Tobey Maguire one and Thingy one, it just basically hangs out with Harry Osborn all the time. So it's not like an accurate high school New York thing, unless you're friends with millionaires. But it makes more sense to just general audience. Oh yeah, there's Ned and there's Flash and there's that guy, whoever the guy was. The really tall guy who looked really grown up. I can't remember his name. Brad, yeah. And then you have like the school is more school looking. The bit at the intro where it's like the in memoriam and there's the blurry photos and the watermarks and stuff. In the Amazing Spider-Man and the original sort of Spider-Man movies, they don't really get too much. It's mostly Peter Parker and then Aunt May, or whoever the villain is that he's friends with for some reason. Like he's just friends with Doc Ock. So I think this is the best, or at least the most relatable teen group that we've seen in a Spider-Man movie, or a live-action one.
Yeah, I agree with you that this version of MJ is great. I always had issues in the Raimi trilogy because there's something very almost toxic about that relationship, and in the way that certainly in the second and third one, MJ wants everything to be about her, and kind of Peter gets dragged along with it and doesn't really speak up for himself at any point, which is it's a bit odd. And I think the Peter and Gwen relationship in the Amazing Spider-Man films was really well done. Maybe not so much in the second one where Peter's just an idiot, but certainly in the first one. I like that this one grows a bit more gradually. So in the first film there's no real hint at romance at all until, I guess, towards the end. And then this one, his objective is to speak to MJ and tell her how he feels. And in even one of the action sequences, the sort of climax of that action sequence is him being relieved that the necklace survived. Which is just this little touch that's just, yeah, this was what was important. Never mind all the people that might have died or drowned or whatever, it's fine. But the necklace is okay, so we're fine. But yeah, I like the way it grows and the awkwardness. I mean, I think my favourite parts of this film were the kind of teen awkwardness stuff at the start. That was really good. And I think this version of MJ is quite fun in the sense, where she acts all tough, except around Peter, where she becomes a bit more vulnerable. I think that's a really nice touch. It's like he brings out that different side of her, whereas she's always playing up to everybody else, and it kind of happens throughout where whenever she's around everyone she's acting like she owns the place, I guess, but less so when Peter's there or when they're on their own. So yeah, I love it, and I think the relationships in the earlier films are what they are. The Peter MJ and the Raimi trilogy, as I've said, wasn't a fan of it, but Peter and Gwen was certainly very good as well, just for different reasons.
I mean, this is definitely more of a teenage crush/romance thing, and I think it's been done really well and really fun. I think the Peter and Gwen stuff in the Amazing Spider-Man films, I think was really good and some of the best bits of those films. But the Peter and MJ stuff in this is just, it seems really genuine, which is quite nice.
I think they've got really good chemistry.
Yeah, and a lot of the school stuff, the school relationships, like Isaac said, it seems more like an actual school. It doesn't seem like a college thing rather than a school, which I think is what the other ones have more been. So, yeah.
Where did all these 35-year-olds come from?
Yeah.
I mean, Flash Thompson in the first Raimi Spider-Man film, what's his name? I forget the actor. Joe Manganiello. Like, he's not 16 or 18 or 17 or whatever he's supposed to be. He's just not. And no one's going to tell me any different. Andrew Garfield kind of looked young in the first Amazing Spider-Man, but again, he's still like 25.
I mean, Tom Holland is 23.
Yeah, but he looks about 14.
That is true, but age is a number at this point. The Raimi MJ Kirsten Dunst version was very much like the two-dimensional caricature of like, here's this beautiful girl and she falls in love with a nerd, and then it's like, oh wow, like he got the girl finally because he's Spider-Man. And yeah, like I think I absolutely agree that there is something toxic about that doesn't really like get addressed very much because, you know, at this point the Raimi films are kind of like seen through nostalgia goggles for most of us. But yeah, Zendaya's MJ is awesome. She's very much like her own person. She has agency. She is herself first before she is the love interest. And I love that. And I actually I think they're so cute together. Like their little coy sort of like romance blooming. Like it's just beautiful. Like she's super cute, like with how she actually, you know, does have feelings for him, but she doesn't want to say, and like she doesn't want to show it, and he's like, you know, completely head over heels, and just that kind of like cute little dynamic is just adorable. So yeah, I absolutely agree. This probably is my favorite of the three, like sort of different versions of like Spider-Man's love interest for sure.
I think the fact that she's taller than him makes it look more like a high school romance as well. And it's definitely not a problem. I just like seeing the two of them together, and then it just makes it look more real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of ties into the awkwardness thing because she like dwarfs him, you know. And so he's like looking up and just like, "Hi, MJ, I've got something to tell you. There's a broken necklace." Yeah, so this is way better because I feel like this cast is a bit more of an ensemble than you've had in previous Spider-Man films. You know, and obviously different characters come in and out. Ned, for example, has way less to do in this film than he does in the previous film. It kind of makes sense, but you know, everybody kind of bounces off each other really well, and you get the idea that they've spent some time together. They've been through the ups and downs of school and dissolving and coming back to life. You know, they have that dynamic, and it's good fun, and having MJ as part of that. And I mean, I don't think I ever had the opportunity to go away on a summer holiday with a school or a class, but you know, interesting conceit.
It's something that we commonly do in Greece. So it didn't really seem that out of place for me. My personal experience was a little bit different because I went to like an international school in Greece. But generally speaking, like students in Greece, like in their last year of high school, will get an option for like a school trip, either, you know, sort of like on a Greek island or something, or abroad. And often they do pick places like Prague or Budapest, or like, you know, just like an equally beautiful European city. So this in itself didn't seem that out of place, although, you know, like I don't know what kind of resources Peter's school has, but yeah, I don't know. It only just occurred to me that other people don't do this.
Well, not during the summer. I mean, we did have like the option to go on like trips here and there during the school year, but yeah, not as a summer thing. You know, you're not sick of seeing these people for 8 months or however long the school term is. Let's go on holiday together, because that sounds like a thing we should do. A couple of teachers just been like, yeah, I'm not sick of these kids. I'll go on holiday with them for the summer. It's a bit insane, but never mind.
It's like what Kat says, I'm pretty nostalgic about the one that I grew up, which was Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst. But this movie in particular, actually, I think deals with their blossoming friendship relationship so well, and I was like so giddy for them like the whole movie, because I was like, this is legit too cute. I think it's been done really well, and I want to go back and watch it again for multiple reasons, but I really enjoyed watching them together on screen. I thought it was really cute.
Cool. We have one more question that may end up covering or branching us into something else anyway. So this is Laura again. What was the point in having fake Fury the whole way through?
I don't think we know yet.
Good point, yeah.
What's the point for the purposes of this film?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a similar thing thinking about sort of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s involvement in the whole thing, to be honest. I think it would have been more interesting, perhaps, if Mysterio had been the one that had kept moving his trip about. You know, if you hadn't known Fury's involvement in the whole thing, if you didn't know Mysterio was planning everything and this trip constantly went wrong and was constantly getting moved about, and it turned out it was Mysterio constantly coming up with ways to get Peter involved in what was going on across Europe.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure the plot really needed Nick Fury to keep it moving. I think we should probably agree what we're going to call this guy, right? Because he's not Nick Fury, but, you know...
Not Fury.
Yeah. We'll just call him Fury. It makes life easier. But he's actually Talos from...
You could just call him, like, Fake Fury.
Fake Fury, yeah.
Fake Fury, I love it.
Fake Fury.
The thing about it was, I mean, throughout the film I was wondering, like, I kept thinking on the first viewing that this... You know, they've written Fury really badly here. Because he's useless throughout. I mean... Surely Nick Fury would see through Beck's shtick pretty much right away, because it's not very convincing, is it? Somehow he's managed to convince Nick Fury that parallel universes exist, when they may not. They probably do, but that'll be in like Phase 5 or something like that. But somehow he's managed to convince him of that, and then the drone attacks have got to be... They've got to be easy to see through as well. Like, if you turn thermal imaging on like the fire creature, you're probably just going to see a bunch of drones. You know, a bunch of like thermally lit up drones. So it kind of explains why he's so ineffective throughout, but also I'm not sure what he really brings to the plot. I think he was really badly overused as well. There was just too much of him.
Do you think that they added this fake Fury on at the end of things because they were like, oh, we've actually done a bad? Or do you think that it was always intended that he was that
get the impression
character?
it was deliberate, because upon second, third and fourth viewing, I was kind of keeping an eye on him throughout, and there are little clues here and there, and he's always acting the same as well. He never seems quite right. The two clues that kind of point to his real identity is when Peter asks, you know, he lists a bunch of heroes that could do the job instead of him.
Yeah.
And
don't invoke her name.
Yeah, don't invoke her name. That was the other one. And then they're talking about Kree sleeper cells later on, and that's a weird thing for them to talk about. And there's also like Maria Hill sasses him a lot more than the real Maria Hill would. You know, she doesn't really answer back to him in previous appearances. So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You're right though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that something was up throughout. I mean, I kind of thought that it was Mysterio's doing throughout. You know, every time Fury would show up, and it's like, oh, well, he'll be an illusion or something like that. And I mean, he was, but for a different reason. It just turns out that Talos isn't that good.
Do we just have to wait to find out why Nick Fury was elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he just fancies a trip to space.
On holiday.
Yeah,
Probably
he was far from home.
He's probably trying to bring a new Avenger back from space. But who lives in space?
Who doesn't live in space? We all live in space, technically.
Well, in that space. Who is he out there trying to get?
I wouldn't mind seeing him and Star-Lord in a movie. That'd be fun.
I think it would just be Fury getting exasperated by him the whole time.
Yeah, just like a buddy cop movie, but where only Star-Lord thinks they're buddies, and like Nick Fury's just having the worst day of his life.
Well, there is talk about we need to be ready for the next big threat, so maybe he's just out there seeing what's about and trying to prepare for it.
They received a signal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the way it's been edited gave them the option that they could have backed out and just not done it. I don't know if it's because they were still trying to finalise what they're going to do next. So they were like, okay, well, we can play this either way. Either it's Fury's back after the snap and he's a bit rough around the edges and not up to his usual standards, or we're going to do it where he's actually Talos. You know, I don't know if that's how they had left it or not.
Just to me, it seems kind of deliberate.
That's why I kind of feel that doing these things in post-credit stings is a bit weird. You know, it's like, as much as I can be a fan of the little surprises you get in the post-credit stings, if you just watched that film and you didn't watch the credits at the end, because if you watched the actual, theatrical piece, you go, oh, well, Nick Fury's just not on his game. You know what I mean? That's how you leave that.
Yeah.
If you watch the actual film, if you don't sit there and go, oh, right, well, I'm going to watch for the extended cut of this film, which comes after these credits have rolled, then, it's not in there. I'm all for little teasers for future films and stuff to be in there, but it seemed like a bit of a weird plot point to sort of put in there.
Yeah, well,
explain part of the movie.
Yeah, let's explain the movie in this bit. And I mean, don't get me wrong.
It doesn't take anything away.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't take anything away by not knowing it. But at the same time, like you've said, you put these hints in, you put these bits and pieces in, and then confirm it in the post-credits thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's almost a completely different discussion. The whole, should post-credit scenes count as major plot points? And
I mean, they were used in Captain Marvel going into Endgame.
Yeah.
That was all done via post-credits.
Yeah. But then she just turns up in Endgame and no one really cares. It's fine.
Same as Scott Lang and Ant-Man and stuff like that. So it's all, all those bits were all done off-screen in terms of the actual film release.
Yeah.
Apart from the credits.
I mean, Isaac, you'll remember the conversation that was had with Aaron, who's not here, and some other people outside of the cinema, where we had a bit of a debate over, can't they just end the film within the film kind of thing, but it's kind of my view that they do end the film in this film. You do get the happy ending of Peter gets the girl and he gets to go and show MJ what it's like to swing around the city while being attached to him, which turns out terrifying, as you would expect. And then you get these kind of buttons that set up other stuff. So like the post-credit scene with Jameson discrediting him and stuff like that. That's it's kind of an ending, although it could just be the opening scene of another film. It's just kind of, I think the film does begin, middle, and end without those credit scenes for me, anyway.
I was expecting far lighter of a post-credits thing because it's at the end of a chunk. But it's also the sort of thing that everyone knows Marvel do post-credit stuff. If people are saying like, oh, I didn't know we had to wait till the end to see the extra little bit, it's like, well, they've done this in like 20 movies. Like, it's kind of obvious they're going to do it. So everyone just like, everyone still sits around and waits anyway. So the people who didn't stick around to watch the end bit probably not that interested, because it's like, well, they probably just said to watch a Spider-Man movie and they go, oh yeah, and they're swinging around the movie at the end of the film, whatever. They're not going to worry too much, oh, I missed some speculation. It'd be a bit odd if you're someone who's super following the sort of ongoing storyline of these movies to not know that every one of them ends with a cliffhanger teaser to the next one.
Yeah. And for those people, you get your ending as well. You get the the Spider-Man gets the girl and swings off into the proverbial sunset, and that's fine. It's a good ending. So that was our last question, other than the stuff about the ending, which we will get to. Let's get on to kind of a bit of plot. So we got a bit of follow-up from Endgame and the implications of what happened, and I absolutely loved that. I loved the shadily edited recap, I guess, over the at the start of the film with the song and the pixelated picture of Vision and the Getty Images watermark on the candle gif. I thought that was great, and you see the band reappear during a basketball game 5 years later. I love that, and even the little references to, oh yeah, there was other people living in my apartment when I reappeared, and that took some explaining, and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I mean, it doesn't dwell on it too much, which I think is the right thing, because it's a light-hearted film. I think if it, gone too depressing with it, it would have been, well, very different. But I love the way they addressed it. And you've got Brad, who's 21 years old rather than 16, but he's still in that class for some reason.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neatly done, of sort of explaining what it's like going back to school and suddenly all the kids that were, several years below you are suddenly all grown up. Because you can imagine that would be a bit weird coming back into that. I mean, the thing is like, were they ever really going to cover the real repercussions of Endgame in the way that people said, like all these people suddenly coming back at once and there being no food to feed them and no houses to put them in, and the absolute mess that would be left when that comes back. And for Spider-Man, their solution was, their solution was, none of this happened. It's absolutely fine. Move along. Move along. Let's just not dwell on it. Let's just say some time has passed and we're over that now. It all got sorted out using paperwork. It's fine. Yeah. There were no arguments whatsoever when everyone came back. It's all fine. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of like the little recap, but, yeah, I think some of the repercussions were absent.
Yeah, and the wink to the camera of, it's time to move into the next phase of our lives. And are the Avengers even a thing anymore? What's the plan? It's the, this is all the questions that everyone has, and it's, guess what? This film ain't going to answer them.
Yeah, you're not getting anything until Comic-Con happens and we do a big panel. I get that some of that was covered. I mean, I liked a lot of the repercussions, seeing the band getting done, and they mentioned later on the school teacher when he's on the plane and he tells Peter that his wife pretended to disappear in the snap. It had me absolutely hooting. It's like, that poor guy. It's like, of course that happened to him.
Poor Mr. Harrington. I love Mr. Harrington. With his camera that falls in the water, and he
goes through so much in this movie.
It's just so tragic. It's such a shame.
Anyone else on the Endgame implications? Do you think they handled them well or poorly? Or
with the single viewing I've had, I don't know if I'm completely satisfied. Like, it had like a couple of really interesting moments. Like all the band kids like blipping back during a game, and just like that sort of thing, like seeing some of that, yes, but a lot of it is kind of dismissed a little bit as comedy. It's just kind of like, oh, haha, like some of us are 5 years older, like what do you do? And it's like, yeah, like it's kind of dealt with in the first few minutes, we laugh at it, and then we move on. Personally, I would have loved to see a little bit more of that, but also, like, this isn't like an Endgame epilogue at the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
So, we couldn't have dwelt on that too much without this becoming, like, a different kind of film. So I understand why they didn't and couldn't do that. And I feel like maybe if I watch it again, like, I won't mind so much. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was more about the impact of Tony Stark's death, I guess, and the fact that you see pictures of him and graffiti and everything everywhere. Obviously, it's supposed to be a thing for Peter, because everywhere he turns, he sees Tony Stark's iron face. But also, the world is kind of celebrating him as a big hero, because I guess it was him that made that ultimate sacrifice and made everything right again. But yeah, there's a lot of minutiae to sort out, for sure. And I guess you get the sense it's an ongoing project with May working at that kind of homeless charity thing, where she gets Spider-Man to awkwardly speak to the crowd, because he's not very good at speaking to crowds. It's like, thanks, Miss Parker, for having me.
Can we talk about the problem with blips?
Yes? Go on.
So, in a really interesting conversation, especially at the cinema a couple of days ago when we went to see the film, Gus and Kieran were talking about things like what would happen if people blipped back when they're in various places. So, what about the people who are in planes?
Well, I'd have thought about that. So
what about the pilot? What if people had since died? Like,
what about, how, like, at the end of Endgame, there's, like, a helicopter that crashes into a building because the pilot goes missing?
Yeah.
Like, what about that guy?
Well, I guess he's still dead, and the pilot's okay. Yeah, but the way I thought about it was, so it's the Hulk that snaps his fingers. Spoilers for Endgame. I mean, if you've not seen it, why are you here? So it's the Hulk that does it. So you would think there would be a bit of premeditated thought that goes in, because there's all this talk about just bring everyone back, nothing else. And he's like, yeah, cool, got it, no problem. So you would think you'd be like, okay, these people were in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on a plane, so I'll just shove them somewhere, like on land somewhere, and it'll be fine. So you'd think they would just reappear somewhere. I mean, obviously not in the middle of the air and then fall to their deaths. So that's the way I thought about it.
But
and what about if you appear in front of a bus on the road that you were crossing when you blipped?
Well, you think the Hulk would just be like, I'll move them at the pavement.
But how can he move all these people?
Well, yeah, but he didn't do that, though.
Well,
like, how can he do that?
Well,
he didn't, because, like, what we saw in Spider-Man is people blipped right back where they were
Right.
Where when the first snap happened, they just reappeared exactly where they were supposed to be, and May said she blipped right back into her apartment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where possible, but in the sense
of wherever they were.
No, it's not where possible. It is like everyone has blipped back to where they were at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got people in a plane,
yeah, I'm not gonna assume that Hulk did a thing if it's not on camera. It didn't happen.
Well, that's my headcanon, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, all the people that were on the plane when the pilot disappeared and the plane crashed into the ground are gone. However, anyone that blipped out of the plane, did they appear on the ground later? I don't... yeah.
No, they wouldn't. I think if they're blipping the exact same place, reality
it depends, because
count.
the band weren't in any danger where they blipped back, apart from being hit by people playing basketball or whatever it was that was going on.
Someone might have a bruised face. Who knows?
So someone's got a bruise, whereas putting someone back in front of a bus or several thousand feet in the air would do them. Depends on if you were in the middle of climbing a massive ledge and you were swinging on a rope, if you suddenly come back, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think that the rule that they're saying is that there's a bit of intent in there, because when Tony snaps away Thanos' army, the presumption is that he didn't snap away Gamora at the end, because he knows that Gamora is good at that point, or Gamora's turn. So there's got to be some form of intent in there when they do the click and the snap.
Yeah, but
one of the
what's going to run through Hulk's head? He's just going to go bring everyone back. It's not going to pass through their head to try, and what do you do? Try and imagine that everyone is in a safe space, because how do you do that when 3 billion people have disappeared?
You very quickly think of some really snappy legal wording that the stones can't get out of when they bring everyone back.
I mean, they are just magic stones, so it's probably fine.
Well, that was something that had our mind in a boggle. So
anyway, this movie was lighthearted, and they swept all that dust under the rug with this sort of Comic Sans montage.
Yeah, so
well said.
Yep. The bulk of the movie is the trip around Europe. Spider-Man takes a trip around Europe. It's I did and still do kind of have my issues with him. I'm going to leave the suit at home because I don't want to be saving people's lives while I'm on holiday. That was a problem for me. But then as soon as he gets to Venice and people are in danger, he leaps into action, which is what Spider-Man does. Fine. So it's maybe he's trying to forget about his responsibilities, but then he can't. I quite like that. It's the... I guess he's fooled himself into thinking that he can be... he can have that kind of apathy when he just can't. So I like that. That was good. As soon as water creatures show up, he's like, right, what can I do? I'll shoot them with my webbing. Well, that's rubbish. That doesn't work.
I agree with what you said earlier about taking him out of New York as well. I think it was good to see him in all those different settings, and then it made when he returned to New York feel like a proper sort of homecoming, because you'd see him back there again. Rather than having a whole movie set there, it was like a sort of triumphant. He got to swing about in the skyscrapers again.
Yeah. And I thought they handled the Spider-Man-iness of it all as well. I can't be seen as Spider-Man in everywhere that my school trip is, because people will know. I mean, people should already know, probably, because he's not very good at keeping his secret. But I like that they addressed that. It's let's get you this kind of identical costume, but in black. That should fool them. Although Ned is really good at viral marketing. He says the word night monkey once and suddenly it's everywhere.
Just rebranded it. He went home, he set up a Facebook page and everything for it immediately. Got a little promo army behind him.
I need to get a Reddit about this because everyone must know.
Sort of. That's why Ned didn't have much to do. He spent all his time on his laptop viral marketing.
Making up legends of the night monkey across Europe.
I think, like you say, it was actually, as much as we've made the joke about him sort of going off on holiday and not staying in New York and dropping his responsibilities. It seems like the kind of thing he would do to try and clear his head, to try and escape and get away from it, like he's earned it, sort of thing. And the fact that he then gets, as soon as there's trouble, like you've said, he jumped right in. Even though it severely risked his identity getting getting blown almost immediately.
So, living in London, every time that I watch a movie where London is destroyed, I'm like, well, here we go again. All right, let's watch the London Eye and the Westminster Abbey and, Big Ben, get destroyed, sure. So, this one focused on mostly Tower Bridge, the Tower of London, and I have to say, that's kind of unique. So, thanks, I guess. But also, poor Venetians.
Yeah, Venice.
A tiny bit, yeah.
Venice got roundly screwed.
Yeah, I felt quite bad about that.
Poor Venetians, man. That was a lot.
And there was a
gonna happen anyway.
Square in Prague that kind of got a bit singed.
Yeah. I've been to that Gothic bridge. That's quite cool to see in a movie.
Yeah, I've seen. They locationally they seem to do quite well. Certainly, I've been to Prague and I was like, I've been there. Cool.
Mm.
Yeah, been in that square.
Mm-hmm.
Not during the carnival. That looks amazing though, but not as amazing as a 4-hour opera.
No.
Kind of want his travel agent because he managed to get about into some nice places. I need to travel Europe more myself.
Yeah. Just get Nick Fury to plan your trip. with Dimitri.
With Dimitri as my coach driver, yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. It's a bit different. And it's something you don't see in a Spider-Man movie. And I was worried about how they were going to address the whole Spider-Man suddenly in Prague. Peter Parker's also in Prague. No, but it doesn't get past MJ because she, spots the webs. I don't know if they'll do something like that again. I mean, I suppose this version of Spider-Man spent very little time in New York when you think about it, because he kind of cuts about Queens most of the time in his first solo film, and he's in Germany, he's in space. So
he even did a day trip to Washington in the first one, so it wasn't all sort of round about his neck of the woods either in the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting a pretty big passport as Peter Parker.
Yes, he gets around. He does get around.
And with great power comes a great holiday.
Yes. What do we think of Mysterio, though? Spoiler alert, he's the villain. Remember coming out of the cinema, one of the hot takes from someone was, I told you Mysterio was going to be a villain. It's like, hang on a minute. You figured out that the villain, the Spider-Man villain, known for trickery and illusions, you figured out he was not on the level? Well done. Well done, you. The only disappointment I had with Mysterio was there's no jokes about his fishbowl head. Not a single one.
Right? Yeah, that outfit is ridiculous.
I love it.
I do love it's actually an amazingly comic accurate costume.
Oh, it's just fantastic. I mean, in particular, I've got to call out to the person that ironed the cape, because the
Janice.
cape was Janice.
she was
Janice
amazing.
with the cape. Well done, Janice.
Just steam ironing the cape during a
Janice,
a
Janice, the
disaster.
true hero.
But kind of I like the whole, so they start off the multiverse thing and these kind of elaborate illusions, and I haven't really noticed this, but apparently during the attack on Prague, you'll see the fire monster attack a car, and instead of being on fire or whatever, it'll have bullet holes. So they're kind of building up to it throughout. There's clues throughout. There is a bit that I did notice on my fourth viewing. It's after Peter buys the necklace, and he's walking with MJ, and behind him is some guy in a hat and a Hawaiian shirt, and that's actually Jake Gyllenhaal. He's watching them. Because I remember the first 3 times I saw it, I was like, there's something weird about that guy. Maybe he's just one of those hammy extras that they missed on the edit, who just winks at the camera or whatever. But no, it's him.
So quite like that he was determined to build an Avengers level threat by the end of it, which kind of addresses the standalone movies, being a bit of a letdown between the big ones.
Yeah, and it's also a bit of a meta-narrative on what it takes to build these sequences in the first place as well. All the thought, all the planning, all the everything that goes into making them happen. Even all the people that go into making them happen, because he has his entourage that are responsible for different things.
I mean, it was the storytelling element of like them taking the Mickey out themselves, going, "I can't believe they swallowed up all that." People will believe anything sort of angle, which is the kind of taking a Mickey of themselves, but also of our current situation in the media as well. Yeah. So it was kind of the double edge of that I liked.
Yeah, like fake news. Yeah, It's like people will believe anything, and even if they don't, if you say it often enough, people will start to believe anything. So yeah, he's got to cut through the static, and he has to destroy London in order to, to be taken seriously. And it was all really good. And I mean, it's another villain that's because of Tony Stark. Another guy wronged by Tony Stark at some point that's now become a problem for Spider-Man, which is hilarious. Yeah, which of Tony Stark's former employees do you think he'll be fighting in the next film?
Craven the Accountant.
Just imagine him hunting for those numbers, hunts through the numerical jungle.
I think Mysterio is the best Marvel villain just because he's the most entertaining. And I remember saying on one of the podcasts ages ago that I was always disappointed because Loki never did any tricks. I was like, Loki didn't really get a good chance to like be the god of mischief and stuff. And then this film just has like a whole segment where you have no idea what is going on. I was thinking like, oh, finally, should have been doing this ages ago with Thor. Now it's just sort of finally caught up.
Yeah, that's actually my favourite part of the film is the whole illusion sequence where Mysterio is just messing with him, and you have the fishbowl head turns into like a snow globe, and he lifts it off his head, and it's like a snow globe with New York inside it. It's amazing. It's really good. Just such a fun sequence. And Jake Gyllenhaal, just really entertaining. It's also funny that he was almost Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
He was almost Spider-Man.
Yeah. Tobey Maguire hurt his back when filming Seabiscuit. And it was getting closer and closer to the day that we're going to start filming Spider-Man 2, and it wasn't clear if he was going to be medically fit to do it or not. So Jake Gyllenhaal was in standby. And yeah,
imagine that.
By days, apparently. I mean, there's different takes on the story, but reportedly Sam Raimi was ready to be like, right, you're up.
Wow, can you imagine? I can't imagine.
No, I mean, he was a good bit younger then. This was in like 2005 or whatever.
So, Mysterio is my favourite villain for Spider-Man because of the game that I used to have for I think it was the Sega Master System, and Mysterio was my absolute favourite person to battle with. But the whole see when it started, and he's all like, "I'm from outer space," and like, "I'm a good guy," and I was like, "What the hell is this? What the hell have they done with this character?" And then I was like realizing, oh, I'm one of those gullible schmucks that's been told like, oh, they'll believe anything. Yeah. And I was like, damn it. But I was so happy when he became, like, when we saw him for who he was. It made me so happy, but obviously pretty gutted for Spider-Man because he's really thinking he can trust someone. But I think their relationship is really, really nice, and you can see like Mysterio really struggling with his conscience to do wrong by him, especially when he pays him compliments, like when he tells him to not apologise for being the smartest person in the room and stuff. Like, you can just see that he takes that on such a personal level, and really every scene that had Mysterio in it, absolutely loved. Even he goes like batshit crazy at the end, absolutely 100%. Loved it.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
I need to see it again.
He's so good at like the comedy of it as well.
It's when they revealed the truth, and he just stands up in the bar and gives a toast to all these people and tells them all information that they should already know. But
that was a bit superfluous.
Well, it works.
I needed a reminder.
It tells us what's going on, but also it seems like it establishes his ego. It's like, I'm really impressed with myself and everything we've done, and it's, so look at everything I done. Oh, here are you, Mr. Iron Man 1 guy. Well done for everything you've done. I mean, that is a deep cut callback. Imagine that actor wasn't available. That'd be hilarious.
They could have had any number of people.
How do you think they all felt about going from being disgruntled working for Stark, and then they end up working for this guy, and he just ends up shouting at them and calling them out and aiming drones at their heads.
See, that was a really great bit when he's like, "Are you really going to make me kill a kid?" And he's got like 3 drones pointed at this man's head. I'm like, oh, this is just the most insane man I've ever seen in a film.
That's the thing. I like that he doesn't have any ill will against Peter as well. Once he gets the glasses, he's done with them. Like, that's it. I don't need to worry about you anymore. I'm off to destroy London. I don't have to worry about Peter Parker anymore. And then as soon as he finds out, he knows the truth, I have to kill him. Great.
He reminded me a little bit of Christian Bale in American Psycho. That sort of level of like nuts.
Yeah.
And just like that really unhinged and bit like hyper intelligent.
I thought you were going to say Christian Bale on set of Terminator.
That too! Why not just Christian Bale in all of life?
Christian Bale, this guy.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, brilliant.
Just wandering about yelling at one of his underlings.
Yeah. No, I really liked it. And I have to be honest, the whole start of the movie was really slow, kind of bumbled along quite a bit, and I was a bit like, okay, it's alright, because like I'm interested in seeing how this Spider-Man does, but so glad it picked up where it did, because otherwise I would have found the movie so boring.
Yeah,
So
I was enjoying all the teen
for
stuff up to
Mysterio.
that point. It was quite fun, but yeah, it definitely does shift gears when Mysterio.
I thought there was a bit too much, and they obviously tried to cover a lot of different areas because there's a lot of fallout from the previous movie. You know, like that's already been discussed. Trying to deal with the blipping back and bosses and all of that. Like, kind of did a different movie for that, I feel. Terms with Endgame. But
In summation, it was good.
it was good. I will go and see it again after I've seen Midsommar, so.
There you go. Supporting the counter programming. Good for you.
I already checked when it's on. It's on at Cineworld like 3 times a day for like the next week at least, though. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. If you're planning to see it, then fine. Yeah. So what else about Mysterio? Yeah, so it's funny how the Spider-Man films have kind of the best MCU villains, or some of the best MCU villains, because Vulture is really good in a different way. And Mysterio, good fun. And I quite like the kind of parallel universe backstory because, well, it's not clear if Quentin Beck is his real name, or if it's like an assumed name. Because, you could just Google Quentin Beck and then it would come up, oh look, here's that guy who got fired from Stark Industries because he's insane. So I don't know. The film doesn't really tell you. He just goes by Quentin Beck.
Yeah, I think it's the same reason that you never see Peter sort of using the Edith glasses around him, because as soon as you looked at him with them on, it would go, hey, hang on, what's up with this guy? Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is wearing them around him at one point.
Yeah, but not activated, not with the...
I don't know, he's like trying to turn over ownership. That's some really weird security on those glasses. Just, there's no 2-factor authentication here. It's just, yep, give it to this guy. See you later. So anyone that sounds like Peter Parker can apparently give over control of this weapons array.
What I didn't understand, I have another problem with this. I don't understand how Edith can ever aim at Spider-Man. Why is that allowed? Why is that in the programming that she could ever hurt Spider-Man?
Well, I guess he didn't have to get control back. He already had control. That's a weird one.
No, but do you know, like, when Mysterio's all, like, targeting him with the drones when they're on the bridge and things, and I'm like, why is he just not like, that's not allowed?
I guess Stark never thought that Peter would be stupid enough to hand it over to someone that was going to kill him.
Yeah, but why is it in the system that he can be a target?
Because Peter could eventually become a threat at some point. So you've always seen that, like, Tony had plans to take out anyone else if he needed to. So it would make sense that he would always leave it in there that if the system had to defend against Peter Parker, it could.
But why leave it in his hands if he thought that he could ever be a threat?
To leave it to someone, I suppose.
Well, he could have destroyed it.
Yeah, I have issues with the Edith concept anyway. I think
He wouldn't have.
it's quite problematic, and also it's one of those things that would have been really useful in the past. Perhaps during the climax of Endgame. It's like, oh, Thanos, you have an army. Well, I've got an army of drones. So, suck on that. I think it's one of those weapon systems that's, I mean, you said it earlier, Chris, it's something that Spider-Man should certainly not have access to at any point, because it's like, oh well, I'll just launch a drone. It's like in Assassin's Creed, you know, it gets to the point where you've recruited a bunch of other assassins, and you can just get them to kill all your targets for you. You don't have to do anything.
I mean, the last will and testament of Tony Stark must have been some sort of firm reading, you know. To Pepper, I leave the house and my company. To Peter Parker, I leave access to this weapons platform orbiting the Earth. That's all, folks. Bye. And my collection of comic books goes to Captain America. See you later.
Yeah. I mean, how is Edith any better than Ultron, really? I mean, yes, it's controlled by a human, but as we've seen, that can be used horribly wrong.
It's still got the opportunity to go terribly wrong, hasn't it? Well, we've seen it go terribly wrong already, but yeah. I don't know. It seems like the kind of thing he wouldn't have made after the mistakes of the first, but I suppose he's maybe not put as much automation into it as he did with the Ultron robots. I don't know.
No, but it supported this version of Mysterio, so they kind of just needed it for the movie.
Yeah. I mean, Edith does have listening issues. Is Brad a target? Yes. I'm just going to kill him. Fine. Like, is there no stun option? Edith. Weird concept. And I'm not sure what they do with it in future films. Like, they just could forget about it.
Yeah. We can't be trusted to potentially set off another Mysterio. So let's just put that in the back of the cupboard and never think about it again.
Yeah, it's just one of those other Stark inventions that no one ever worries about ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's problematic, but especially when it's almost killing teenagers based on the half-heard orders from a teenager. Well, he's not a teenager, he's like 21, but you know what I mean. What about the other side characters? So we've got, Happy, and yeah, let's talk about Happy, why not? Happy he's in this film, and he's quite useful. I think it's really weird that Happy manages to be in these films and do nothing, but yet be really important.
Yeah, I think I've had enough of Happy.
You've had enough of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's there to kind of bring the Tony Stark nostalgia, and for people to be like, oh yeah, remember him, and he's got the soundtrack. He can stick on the AC/DC or Led Zeppelin if that's what Peter thinks it is. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've had enough of Happy. Seen enough Happy.
I like Happy. He's just cruising around his jet, picking up teenagers, which isn't as dodgy as it sounds. Just flying around in a jet. That's what he does. He's also not very good at throwing shields, which I thought that killed me. That absolutely killed me.
No, it was a neat little bit. I mean, yeah, he's a bit of fun to have in there, and he was kind of Peter's primary contact in Homecoming. As much as he interacted with Tony Stark, he interacted more with Happy for the majority of it.
Because Jon Favreau's cheaper.
Yeah, much cheaper. But yeah, I think he's a bit of fun in this, isn't he? I don't know quite the angle that they were going for with his relationship with Aunt May. That was a bit of a weird thing for them to be doing in the film. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, cool.
It's like, Aunt May, do you not remember Uncle Ben? Do I remember Uncle Ben? Does anyone remember Uncle Ben? I mean,
yeah, you see his little travel suitcase that he takes with him. It's
got the initials. Ben's. Yeah. But that's it. Kind of Tony Stark is more Uncle Ben in this.
He's been dead for a while, so what are you supposed to do?
There's a meme where it's like, whoever the Avengers face next, just get them to be Peter Parker's father figure, and eventually they'll get killed.
This is true. He does burn through father figures.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Happy May relationship. I think it was just kind of crowbarred in, and also I thought it was a bit weird when they were about to die in the Crown Jewels vault, and he just shouts out in front of all the other teenagers, "I'm in love with Spider-Man's aunt."
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't already know, when they see him later, like, wait, that's Peter's aunt? I wonder if they're the same person.
The only explanation is that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are related and have the same aunt.
I'm not happy with Happy generally. I don't like him. I've never liked him.
Yeah.
So the insistence of keeping this character in the MCU, and he's always just there, and I'm like, get this man out. I don't care. And now they're like shoehorning in this romance, and like, ugh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's the worst. He's the worst. I hate him. For any reason, like, you know, he's a nobody. He like literally has no personality. He's just kind of like a bumbling buffoon, but like not even in a likable way. It's just like, what even are you? Just like, no thanks. And also it doesn't help that the 2 movies he directed in the MCU are my absolute least favorite. And so it's just like, what is it with Disney and this man, and why do they keep giving him work? Stop it! Stop this, please. Anyway, yeah, no. TLDR, not a fan of this romance.
He makes good sandwiches.
Oh, I don't care. I can make a good sandwich. Are they going to give me a role in the MCU? I don't think so.
You never know. Just write to them
Yeah.
and say, I can make a good sandwich. And then maybe you'll be
That's a
cruising
good
around in a jet in the next
application. Like,
Spider-Man film.
yeah. Oh, well then.
Who knows? I quite like the kind of function he had in that particular scene, though. You know, where he was helping... Well, he was stitching up Peter's wound. And he was telling him, look, Tony Stark was a mess. You probably shouldn't listen to him. He doesn't even get it half the time. And then the kind of knowing look he gave as Peter was playing with the holograms. It's like, oh, that's just like Tony did. And I really liked that scene. I think that was a really strong scene. Other than that, in the film, I mean, he disappears for quite a lot of it. I think just hanging around May and eating her lunch and stuff is, you don't really need that. That particular scene was really good. I really liked that scene. So then Betty and Ned, I really like that, actually. I mean, they get together in the comics. The versions of those characters get together in the comics, and it's just the comedy value, and it gets Ned out of the way most of the time. I think that they were fine.
I don't think he was as good as he was in the last film, and that just made me kind of annoyed that he was there at all.
No, I think they definitely flipped MJ into his spot in this film, in terms of the screen time and stuff like that. I like when he gets tranquilised by Fury. That's quite funny. Isaac, you wanted him to chokehold, you know.
Oh yeah, I wanted to like sneak up and then see Samuel L. Jackson like chokeholding a teenager while like Peter Parker's still talking about like liking a girl.
But actually Ben Mendelsohn.
Chokeholding a teenager. Yeah, why not? That'd be hilarious. It would be hilarious. I love the teachers. Particularly Mr. Harrington. Just the most tragic guy ever. Just the worst life. He's keeping it together. And really enjoys getting his upgrade living. Well, the thing is, when the bus is almost careened off the mountainside, and then it's like, oh, baby mountain goats. We didn't just almost die 10 seconds ago. I mean, it's for a joke, and it's so Peter doesn't get seen when he destroys the drone, but still, it's... I think that was the problem with some of the humour in general. It was a bit on the nose in a lot of places, actually. You know, where it's like, that joke doesn't work here because it's... You know, there's too much dangerous stuff going on to be making this joke.
I don't know, they were kind of going for a bit more of that light-hearted tone, but then also you have to have near-death moments because we've got an Avengers level threat.
Yeah.
And the best joke was him dropping his camera.
That was a
It was telegraph joke.
Sticky,
Yeah, I think he caught the camera first, which was it's funny first because he saw the danger of dropping his camera, caught it, and then dropped it like when he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. And there were some other like lines as well, like speaking as a man of science, witches, and when in Rome do as the Romans do, when in Venice your socks get wet. That was a good one. The only bit of comedy I can think of that's a bit on the nose is the baby mountain goats bit, because they almost died because Peter's an idiot. I think that's fairly consistent, is that Peter is a bit of an idiot no matter what he does. He's always kind of making like huge catastrophic mistakes. Although with Brad, do you think they're setting him up as something like in a future film, because he's like the only one that's really paying attention and he's only getting half the story?
See, I thought Brad was a bit of like a Fury plant or something like that, like sent in to disrupt, but then they never really did anything with it. So I don't know. Maybe it's something they're setting up for the future.
He'll be this version's Hobgoblin or something, because we haven't had a goblin yet. How many appearances we had by this Spider-Man? No goblins whatsoever.
What is the world coming to?
What is the world coming to with just no goblins? Does anybody have any other thoughts on kind of the side characters before we move on?
There's a throwaway little moment, but it is quite significant. There is the first trans character in a Marvel movie is one of the kids in Peter's class, and he only gets a tiny bit of screen time, but that's pretty cool, I thought.
Which one?
I mean, he doesn't have a name in the film, I don't think. Oh. He didn't have a line or anything, but he's in the crowd in the sort of like hotel when they get in Prague.
All right, I missed that actually. I didn't spot that.
I mostly knew about it because I was reading about it, but that's kind of it.
Right, yeah. And you had a bit of a Flash Thompson as well. They kind of touched on his loneliness. You know, he does his videos because he wants people to like him because his parents are neglectful because he's rich and his parents don't care about him. I guess you don't do anything with it, but it's there.
You got a bit of that. I felt a bit sorry for him when he got back and his parents weren't there to pick him up. It was the butler. It was like, oh.
Yeah. And that's probably ultimately why he bullies Peter, because he's lashing out, I guess. But he's not as like mean-spirited as previous versions of Flash Thompson. It's kind of played for laughs a bit, and he's not that hard on him, I suppose. I did like the line where it was, Spider-Man inspires me to be a better man and all that stuff, and then Peter walks in and he's like, sup, dickwad?
It's kind of spoiled by putting it in the trailer because you've seen it in the trailer so many times now. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good line.
Or the more family-friendly version of the trailer where he says, sup, loser? It's so obviously dubbed. Yeah. It's just obviously terribly dubbed. So I don't know if we'll get more Flash in the next film, maybe. Who knows? With his family situation. Maybe he could be like that version of Harry Osborn, because we don't need a Harry Osborn in this version, I guess. You could use Flash for that, because he is kind of that.
I was thinking that, is like because he's sort of rich and around Peter, that it sort of ticks the box there where maybe Flash wouldn't have in the past, so yeah.
Could happen. So in terms of the illusions, the kind of action and the illusions and how they're set up, do you think it like completely adds up? I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier, where if you turn like thermal imaging on it, surely it gives away the reveal, and gives away the trick, and you get that bit in London where they power down the illusion and expect everybody still to be kind of terrified of this elemental creature. So it probably doesn't add up if you put it under any scrutiny.
The one that sort of threw me off was the big sort of lava monster when he's throwing rocks at the lava monster. And it's like, if the drones are inside and he's throwing rocks inside, then surely he's just been like destroying the drones. It's either that or you've got drones pretending to be rocks that can then be flung at the lava monster.
Yeah, because doesn't Mysterio tell him to throw the rocks?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably just had like...
Or tells him not to throw metal, yeah.
Yeah, don't throw metal because it'll break the drones. Throw these rocks, which probably weren't here earlier, but flew into place at the beginning of this fight.
The drones were kind of outside. I think they were on the outskirts of the arena, and they were projecting into it. Like they were projecting 3D holograms into it, because when Peter accidentally shoots web at the Ferris wheel and accidentally hits one of the projectors. Like it's on the outside of it.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. I kind of wondered how they did with doing the Venice thing and whatever else. You know, even the London thing to an extent. You know, it's a bit... I guess it's one of those, you just have to suspend disbelief, and then I suppose once you establish that Mysterio is doing all this stuff, then you don't really have to explain how he's doing all this stuff.
I quite like they did a bit more than... Like when we watched those cartoon ones, where it's just like, it's a trick, but then they never sort of put any effort into saying like, oh, how anything is a trick. So it's quite nice that he had like a whole team, and there's a bit more explanation going into, oh yeah, this is how the illusions are working. It's not just, I've made the illusion of I can fly, and then they never explain how the illusion's done, sort of thing.
Yeah, I love his mocap suit.
Yeah, I love the mocap suit.
Well, the funniest thing is there was like set photos that leaked, sort of as the film was in production, and you had like Jake Gyllenhaal wearing a mocap suit, and no one knew like that was actually the costume he was wearing in the film. Everyone assumed it was going to get digitally replaced by like the Mysterio suit, but it's just, well, it kind of is, but kind of isn't. It's
costume
like,
designer had a nice easy day that day.
Yeah, so just put on the mocap suit. Brilliant. And he had his even bigger fishbowl that he wore during all that.
Do you think they CGI'd the fishbowl he wore in the mocap suit, so if they were filming outside, it doesn't look like he was wearing a mocap suit?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it was. Although they had pictures of him in practical costumes as well. So I guess it depends on the scene. And it is funny how in all three of the elemental fights, he just shows up and just shoots green stuff at them without explaining what the green stuff really is. It's like, yeah, I just shoot green things at things until they die. Green lasers. That's it.
Because magic. Ooh.
Well, yeah, you get the kind of, it looks like the Doctor Strange spells as well. But again, no one explains what they're supposed to be doing or whatever. Like, it's often a criticism against magic-based stuff, where they, whoever it is using the magic, it's like, well, I don't understand how this works, so they could just do anything. And then normally, whenever someone gets them on the ropes, they just have a counter spell. So it's kind of like that. And, it's during the fire creature fight, it's like, well, to defeat this, I'm just going to have to get even more green stuff and shoot the thing and pretend to die, because that'll upset Peter, I guess.
The one that I kind of liked, which was an actual one, not quite, was the first time when Mysterio meets him at basically pretends to be Fury. That one, the sort of mind trippy one.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite understand how that was done. That was the one that I was like, how did because gravity and falling and that kind of motion, it's like, how does all that work? So but I think visually it was really interesting.
Yeah. So it was just a building under construction that was just full of holograms and stuff. So when he was actually...
You have to have pretty well choreographed to be able to present to him exactly what was happening in terms of his motion falling off a ledge and things, and have all of his illusions or his holograms and things appear exactly as they should. I mean, maybe that would make it more trippy if you were falling, but it actually looked like you were falling upwards or something.
Well, I suppose that's where the suspension of disbelief comes in. It's like he's prepared for this somehow, but couldn't really have anticipated some things. But I like how they built trick on top of trick on top of trick, where it's like, oh, it looks like Fury's defeated Mysterio now. Oh no, that's another trick. It's like, oh no, he's been hit by a train. Maybe that's another trick. Nope, he has actually been hit by a train. And now he's in the Netherlands for some reason. Which was hilarious yet pointless. Everyone's so nice here.
Yeah, they came off rather well, didn't they?
Yeah. But as you know, Europeans love Americans. Everybody knows that. I actually thought that the action made good use of Spider-Man's particular set of skills, to quote Taken. You did have the taser webs, which are, tech, fine. And then actually turning his spider sense into a major plot point. This is how he wins, by using his spider sense and trusting the Peter Tingle. I really hated that term.
Yes.
But it's really good because we've never had that in a film, actually, in a Spider-Man film, where except maybe Spider-Verse, where the spider sense does become really important. It just kind of gets forgotten about in most of them.
Yeah, it was quite a cool sequence where he was relying on it and just being able to see through the illusions.
Yeah, just close your eyes and trust your instincts. And that's quite reminiscent of how he would defeat Mysterio in the comics as well, at least the first time. Repeat appearances from Mysterio are really weird because it's like, I know everything's an illusion, like, why am I still falling for it? Yeah,
once the penny drops, that's it. Once Mysterio is revealed, it's like, you can imagine him getting caught at first, but then he's not going to be caught after that. Yeah. I mean, I liked the fact that there was sort of the hints that it had been playing up and it hadn't quite been the same since Endgame.
Yeah.
That his sense hadn't quite been working the same way. So
I wonder if that was a conscious thing because he was relying more on Stark tech than he was his own powers. Because, if anybody's wearing the Iron Spider outfit, surely anybody can be Spider-Man, basically. Because it can just mimic those powers. You would think.
Yeah, maybe it was because he was emotionally affected by those events, so his general demeanour was kind of all put out of whack.
Yeah. And I think it's quite telling that the suit that he builds, using Stark tech, is more of a fabric suit than it is like a metal suit. That says a lot about like who he wants to be and how he wants to be perceived and how he sees himself, I suppose.
You even saw him consciously sort of pick what he was going to put on the suit as well, and he got rid of the extra arms and this and that and the other. They all got ripped off.
Where was Karen, though?
Who?
His faithful AI pal.
Oh, from the first movie?
Yeah.
Or his little drone.
Yeah, Droney. Where was Droney?
Nobody really liked Droney.
Nah, I thought it was a bit too much, actually. And even then, the running out of webbing thing, I like that as well. Because I don't think we've ever seen that in a Spider-Man film. It's just his web shooters get destroyed in The Amazing Spider-Man, I guess. But it's a common thing in like the comics and cartoons and stuff where he's in the middle of a fight and he's like, oh crap, where's my webbing? I've got no spare cartridges. Oh no, what do? So that's different. And then he has to think his way out of the problem, which I like. I like it when Peter Parker has to think his way out of a problem.
Yeah, that was good and authentic.
Walks out with his shield and explosive hammer. Is it a reference? Maybe not.
I think it was.
It's handy that you have drones because it means he can blow them all up without really worrying about hurting people. So that's very Spider-Man as well. Not having to worry about kind of killing anybody. And he doesn't even do much to Beck as well. He just punches his little globe thing rather than him. Because, you could take someone's head off if you punched them hard enough. I mean, I'm not sure if I missed it on any viewing, but how does Beck actually die? I don't get, like...
He gets shot.
It's hit by one of the drones.
He bleeds out.
Is he hit by one of the drones?
Yeah,
one of the bullets, I think.
Yeah, he gets shot because he orders the drones to shoot, and Edith says, you're in the kill zone, that's why we're not shooting.
Yeah.
And he says, just shoot, and so he gets hit by a bullet, and... Even though it turns out that that's like a fake version, I guess the real version of him still has gotten shot. Yeah. And like he bleeds out, I think.
Because the last you see is obviously he tries to shoot Peter, but Peter's like aware of it and sees through the illusion and deflects the gun. But yeah, so I suppose that naturally gets us on to the ending. So Laura and my namesake. Great, this is where it comes in. I thought it was a great ending. Mysterio having one last trick up his sleeve. And the fact is, it's almost a lesson in I should be careful who I tell my secret to. Although it was actually fake Fury that told the secret.
Yeah, I think it's less about that for me and more about like in the same vein that the bad guy in Homecoming was, sort of like a cautionary tale on like here's what happens to the little guys when like capitalism and greed takes over. Like Mysterio's story very much is about fake news and like the world now and how we are prepared to believe anything, and if it looks real enough, like who's to say?
Yeah.
And like it like that mid-credit scene like just left me feeling like, oh no, now what? Because like that looks real and people were prepared to believe all of that, and what do they know of Spider-Man anyway? So like I don't know how they'll get out of it, and I hope that the way that they do get out of it is nice and satisfying and doesn't just get swept under the rug, because I would hate that. I think it's a really interesting question to ask about what in today's day and age where like a lot of like we see a lot of like incredibly well crafted fake stuff, and it sometimes takes like lots of snooping to figure out like what's real. And so just like I don't know, Spider-Man movies making social commentary, I dig it.
Yeah. And even at that, if and when he's proven innocent, it doesn't mean everyone will believe that he's actually innocent, because people make up their own mind on which footage they believe, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very unfortunate that Edith did say, "Would you like me to execute all cancellation orders?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Yes, execute them all." So it's very unfortunate phrasing.
Edith, if he wants to cancel, you've got to ask him this particular way so that he says this, please.
Do
it that way. I mean, I feel that like the reveal of his identity could be gotten round using like the usual sort of sci-fi TV trope where you've got shapeshifters around. It depends on if Fury's wanting to reveal that he has a team of shapeshifters, because you could just get someone to, one of them to pretend to be Peter while Peter goes out as Spider-Man and does a big rescue thing while fake Peter is holding a press conference saying that he's not Spider-Man. And I think that would sort of maybe get rid of that pretty quick.
Well, I mean, even at that, there's like the holographic mask thing that Black Widow uses in one of the movies, in Winter Soldier. Like, yeah, that technology already exists to get around that.
I think that at least at that level, it's, someone can go up and touch his face or slap him about the face or whatever, and the illusion wouldn't drop, whereas with a hologram it would. It was like it would take further, it would take a bit more thorough scrutiny than the others. I mean, how he's going to get out the accusation that's made is a different thing. How Spider-Man's going to get around that, I don't know, might be tricky.
Well, I can add some thoughts on that anyway. So on the identity thing, there's an episode of Spectacular Spider-Man that's really that does this really well. There's a bit where just Venom turns up at the Daily Bugle and says Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then the following episode, basically what happens is that version of Ned Leeds interviews everybody in Peter Parker's life to try and find out if he is actually Spider-Man. And you've got this, some people are a bit like, could he be? It would explain a lot, and then they're like, nah. And they just dismiss it. And then Flash Thompson's like, no, there's no way he could be Spider-Man. Spider-Man's cool, and Peter Parker isn't. So therefore, no, not a chance. And Aunt May's like, am I being punked? And so you've got this kind of, just because it's been outed doesn't mean that anybody will believe it. So they could go down that route. Another alternative is the secret identity is gone, because the MCU doesn't really care about secret identities. It never has, not since the beginning. Since Tony Stark said, I am Iron Man in the first film. That's it. They've not bothered about it. But the murder accusation, I mean, he has access to Stark Industries lawyers, presumably. He could get a very high-priced lawyer that can help.
I think the next Marvel movie is going to be a courtroom drama.
Well, it could be. Maybe Matt Murdock will represent him. And Jessica Jones can dig up evidence. This is in like 2 years from now when they're allowed to do that. So that's a possibility.
I think it's more likely that he has to clear his name, that it all stands, and that going to make the fact that his identity's out there is going to make it harder for him to hide, and he's going to have to go on the run and somehow work out how to clear his name or prove that the accusations are false.
I mean, Pepper has her work cut out for her with the PR issue that comes from the Stark Tech destroyed London, side of it as well, I suppose.
Well, I suppose at the moment, if Mysterio's believed, then Star Trek didn't destroy London. Oh, it did it?
No, he says Spider-Man attacked me with an army of drones, Stark technology. Yeah, that was it. There's no getting out of that, so there'll be some PR issue there, but I would like to see, Spider-Man Most Wanted be the next film, where he just has to figure out how to win the trust of the public back, I guess.
Do his apology tour. That'll be the next time he goes on
YouTube video, just a YouTube apology. Yeah,
it wasn't me. It was an illusion. They could obviously do the actual comic book origin of Scorpion as well. In the comics, it's Jameson that pays to get Scorpion made in the first place. Or they could do like Spider Slayers, where every now and again, I mean, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but every now and again, Jameson would pay Spencer Smythe, as it was at the time, to build a Spider Slayer robot that would go and attack Spider-Man. It'd be this like bipedal robot with Jameson's face on it, just on a screen, just attacking Spider-Man for an issue. It's as stupid as it sounds. But I like InfoWars Jameson. I think that's something they need to stick with.
Oh, I think that's a neat way of doing it. I mean, it was great seeing him back as JJ, and the putting him as like this InfoWars style character, just spot on. That in this Spider-Man universe, of course, that's what he is, bringing it up to date. I
mean, Isaac, you predicted the cameo, but I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, they're not going to get someone else to be J. Jonah Jameson, so just once in a end credit scene, he'll show up as J.K. Simmons. Probably say something like, "Get me pictures of the Avengers," and then we'll never see him again. I still think we'll never see him again. I know, Craig, you think that there'll be more J. Jonah Jameson, but I reckon that's all we'll ever get, I think.
Well, they could do a bunch of sort of pre-recorded stuff like that, InfoWars stuff on screens that could be in the next film.
I think if he's trying to defend his name, and if that is the theme of the next Spider-Man film, then you will get just tons of clips of him just constantly trying to prove that he's right and take him down.
Yeah.
And I think you'll end up with that. Whereas if they go on a different track with it, then you might not get as much.
I don't know. I know that you're saying he's a one-off, but I think he'll come back. I think that maybe they'll get such a rise, that people will be like, "Woo, that was amazing!" That they'll be like totally inclined to have him in the movie.
Well, did you hear about how this cameo actually happened?
Nope.
Apparently, they asked J.K. Simmons to do it, and he said no. He flat out said no initially, and then they sent him information on what the cameo would involve, and he was well up for it. So they just got him into an office, put up a green screen, and filmed it in like a couple of hours.
Couple of hours?
Yeah, and it was like the last thing they shot.
You'd think it would take 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, you've got to do different takes and stuff. That's how filmmaking works.
5 minutes. Sounds like a Nail Before podcast.
Yeah, I think that he's probably done with the character, and even if he liked that treatment, I think probably would have agreed, yeah, I'll come back, do this, kind of kick this whole thing off, and then bow out, because I think he's probably done with that.
Well, I hope not, because he's among the finest comic book castings ever.
How frustrating is the end, though?
In what way?
It's pretty frustrating, because you're like, oh my god, we're about to get Spider-Man hated by everyone. How's he going to get home?
Well, it's pretty consistent with the comics, actually, where a lot of New York just think he's a menace.
Yeah,
Like him.
But this is like beyond a menace. This is him having killed someone who could have potentially have been new Iron Man.
This is true. He has been accused of murder before as well. I guess we'll see in, I don't know, when's the next film due? 2 years? Apparently it's Tom Holland's final film in his contract as well.
In his whole life.
It's funny because it is his whole life. It's like, this is the one role you get to play Tom Holland. The part of the contract is that afterwards...
He may never act again.
He never acts again.
That would be a shame. Poor Tom Holland just, ousted from acting for the rest of his life because he played Spider-Man a bunch of times. As opposed to other actors that just never got any other work because they played Spider-Man. So, does anyone have any bigger thoughts on what might happen next? Anything out of the box? There has to be something out of the box.
I want to see a team up with another young Marvel character. They need more sort of Spider-Man aged. A Ms. Marvel or something. Or
Miles Morales.
I mean, we were saying it'd be good to have Miles Morales, but... No, a different superhero they can then launch off that's not Spider-related. I'm going to go with specifically Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, use Tom Holland's Spider-Man as the Tony Stark figure has been for him, for another young superhero. I think that.
No, on the same level.
Yeah, well, me and Isaac had this conversation a while ago, actually, kind of with the 5-year time jump could have presented an opportunity to have Miles Morales already active. Because he finds out that Spider-Man's disappeared and he's sort of inspired by him to, be Spider-Man. So Peter Parker comes back and finds out there's this other Spider-Man kicking about.
I think
who's the next enemy?
Don't know.
Who's the next villain that we're going to encounter?
I don't know. Kraven the Hunter, maybe? Nah.
Don't you guys always know?
Well, they haven't announced anything yet, so who knows?
Yeah, but you always know, Craig. You always know, even when you think that you don't know.
Could be Kraven the Hunter if he's not getting his own solo film at Sony, like every other Spider-Man villain.
The Wet Bandits.
The Wet Bandits.
Sticky Bandits.
Sticky Bandits because he's back in New York now.
So on that note, we could wrap up. We can wrap this up in a neat little web and go our separate ways. And I don't know. I don't know where this analogy's going. I'm just spitballing here. Okay, so Isaac, what are your final thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home?
I didn't think I'd be excited for another Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man's never been my sort of go-to hero. Before this, I would have been like, yeah, it'd be nice to see a new hero, or like Doctor Strange or some other different character, because we've had a load of Spider-Man movies before. But sort of on the cliffhanger that we've been given, I'm now like, just make another one of those, like pretty much straight away, and then. And I'm sure whatever we get next, I think it's Black Widow next, isn't it? By the looks of things, that'll be great, amazing, fantastic. And then I'm sure like that'll end up with a similar sort of cliffhanger situation where it's like, just show the next Black Widow film.
Black Widow.
It's a prequel.
She's getting a.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
God, why do they bother with those things?
I know. At this point, I don't care either. It's like, all right, I guess we're getting the Black Widow movie that nobody wants at this point.
Maybe that's why it'll surprise you. You know, because you're not that bothered.
Ugh.
Wow, the excitement.
Well, like, think of how much time, effort, everything involved in that, and it's like, why bother?
It could be pivotal, who knows?
Nah,
the money.
Sorry,
Follow the money.
You were saying?
Yes, and at the moment, I'm quite excited for another Spider-Man movie. I think there'll be usually a character that I'm never really bothered about. Suddenly has become like the most important character in the series. It's kind of like, okay, I want to know what's happening now. I want to know how he's going to get out of this sort of jam. There'll be different films to come before it, but it's quite fun to be like sort of quite geared up for a sequel now. So yeah, bring on more sort of Tom Holland just swinging around, and yeah, just keep making Marvel will make
I feel the same way. I legit feel the same way. I'm always bragging about how many Spider-Man movies there are. I don't actually know why, considering that like that's like the only one that I really super knew growing up. But yeah, I'm excited for the next one too. And yeah, I've surprised myself.
And how many costumes do you think he'll wear in the next one?
8.
Just all the costumes.
Maybe he won't have any costume. Maybe it'll just be like him trying to get home.
Just him trying to get home.
2 hours.
Maybe there'll be no
subway for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's the Warriors, but
Spider-Man. Oh my god! Yeah, it'll be like
Gotta get back to Coney.
He won't have any villain because everyone will be his enemy.
Well, like that terrible John Wick movie where everyone's his enemy.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Is
it's going to be like John Wick 3. He's just going to be like hunted by this city full of assassins somehow.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
Well, that'd be a different take. We've not seen that film before. I'll give them that. Kat, final thoughts?
Yeah, a really nice kind of way to continue Spider-Man's story and also kind of wrap up some Endgame things. Peter continues to be my son, and he must be protected at all costs. And I feel personally victimized. Sorry?
How young were you when you had him?
I mean, the age is but a number. Yeah. And also, him being my son is internet's peak. Get with the times, Craig.
Also, what do you mean, like, there could have been multiple blips? Or timeline jumps?
Oh, I don't know about that. What are we talking about just now?
I think she's more
if you qualify age-wise.
Yeah. Never
mind. Oh, okay. Spider-Man's mum.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I am a time traveler. Yes. 5 out of 5 would watch again.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said at the beginning, I was sort of pleasantly surprised with what they did with it. It sort of put away some of my doubts, explained some of the decisions that they'd made. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool. Angus?
They dealt with the post-Endgame fallout, not how I would have wanted to see it explained, but I suppose it fit the tone of the movie. I liked the relationships between the high school characters more than I liked the villain and the villain's plot. I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I really liked MJ, and their relationship was really good. I liked the road trip aspect of it. It was quite cool to see them go on the road and see them in lots of different settings. I do like that they were going for the whole fake news, or seeing what people will believe if we present them with this kind of VR or sort of virtual threat. and it was kind of an interesting angle, but kind of slightly underwhelmed because it kind of undercuts the I don't know, the real threats that some of the characters have faced before, that sort of thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall.
Cool. Natalie, do you have anything to add to your final thoughts that you gave a minute ago?
Mine? Yeah, actually, how did you read my mind? I was wanting to give it a star rating too, because you never let me go for like numbers that are like not whole numbers. So I'm going to give it a 4.3 out of 5.5.
Let's not try and work out that scale. Maybe Craven in accounting will have to help us with that one. Cool.
I echo a lot of what Gus said, to be honest, but I think I definitely enjoyed Mysterio more because I'm biased. Like, I love him.
Fair enough. I really enjoyed it. Part of me wonders, like, what if they'd done the original Mysterio thing where he's like a failed special effects guy? Wouldn't it be funny if he was like a movie guy and he was like, all they make right now are blockbusters and superhero movies. I'm going to give them the blockbuster superhero movie that they want and destroy the world at the same time. I don't know. That would have been one take on it, I don't think. I think it would have been harder to process, but I thought Mysterio was great. Jake Gyllenhaal was really good. He's one of the top tier Marvel villains. I liked the action. I love the awkward teenage stuff. I liked Peter Parker's arc. I just liked almost everything about this film. I think that did a good job. I think the Fury stuff, whether he's real or not, was a bit overdone. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I just had a great time, and it was just a nice, fun time at the movies, and it's good that I can watch a Spider-Man film and be like, yep, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. Because Spider-Man is one of my 2 favourite things ever. So it's good that I like it. Well, I would like to thank my entire Sinister Six for turning up and getting along, rather than all the infighting that seems to go on when supervillains team up. So I think we'll agree that we'll split the reward for Spider-Man. 90% for me, and then 10% kind of spread amongst the rest of you. Does that sound fair?
I think that you'll find several drones pointed at you when you say that.
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Octopus would plan for that with his own drones. Natalie, thank you for being here.
Bye.
Angus, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Electro Chris, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Kat, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
And Isaac, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'll go put the kettle on.
So cute.
Classic sound then.
Yeah, classic. End on that one. So that was our discussion of Spider-Man Far From Home. A big thank you to YouTuber Neil Stenson for the supplied music. If you enjoyed this, then web that subscribe button on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, or any major podcasting app. iTunes users, if you could leave us a star rating and a comment, we would love you forever. If you want to discuss Spider-Man, Marvel, or anything else, then hit us up on Facebook or Twitter under Kneel Before Blog, or leave a comment on kneelbeforeblog.co.uk. So until the Marvel Cinematic Universe is rebooted using nothing but singing cats, make yours Kneel Before Pod.